Rian stood in the middle of the grand courtyard, where banners of two worlds fluttered together in the warm light. The palace of the Zyran Empire shone with silver towers and smooth stone that reflected the sky like water. Today was supposed to be a peaceful day. The human delegation had come to form a strong bond with the alien empire, and the soldiers from both sides stood in long lines to show respect. Rian, one of the youngest human soldiers, was assigned to stand near the Empress herself. It was a big honor, and he still felt surprised he had been chosen at all. He kept his eyes forward. Even though he was low in rank, he took his duty seriously. Many alien guards stood around the Empress, and he saw how tall and skilled they looked. Their armor was bright gold, their movements sharp and trained. Rian felt small beside them, but he told himself that he would do his best. He always did. The Empress arrived with calm steps. Her name was Lyra. She wore a long blue robe that shimmered like starlight and carried an ancient staff that symbolized peace. Her eyes were bright silver, gentle yet powerful. When she walked past Rian, she gave a small smile to the human side of the guard line. Rian felt proud. He did not know that this day would test him in a way he never imagined. The speeches began. Alien leaders stood on a raised platform, speaking about unity and trust. Humans clapped politely. Everyone seemed hopeful. Then, just as the Empress stepped forward to give her message, a strange rumble shook the ground. Rian turned quickly. A loud blast echoed across the courtyard. A ball of red energy shot out from somewhere above the palace walls and smashed into one of the tall pillars. Stone cracked and fell to the ground. Screams filled the air. Before anyone understood what was happening, another blast came, even stronger. This time the energy beam came from the left side, where some buildings stood outside the courtyard. The explosion was so loud that it made Rian's ears ring. Dust rose high, and smoke covered the sky. For a moment, there was silence. Then chaos followed. Many guards panicked. Some shouted orders that no one listened to. The alien elite guards around the Empress pulled back in shock. These warriors, who were trained to protect her with their lives, suddenly stepped away because the enemy was using a weapon they had never seen before. The blasts cut through solid stone and metal as if they were nothing. Fear spread quickly through the royal guards. Rian saw it all happen in seconds. People running. Guards losing formation, confusion. But what shocked him the most was that the attackers were not aiming at the palace towers or the guard lines. They were aiming at the Empress herself. A bright line of energy lit up again. It moved fast through the air, heading straight toward her. Time slowed. Rian did not think. His body moved on its own. He sprinted forward, pushing past two alien guards who were frozen in fear. He reached the Empress just as the blast hit. He threw himself in front of her and raised his shield. The energy slammed into him. His armor burst with sparks. The force knocked him down to one knee, but he held his shield high, shaking from the impact. When the light faded, Rian gasped for air. His arms hurt. His armor was cracked, but the Empress behind him was safe. Lyra looked at him with wide eyes. She did not speak. She was in shock that a human soldier, who was not even part of her personal guard, had protected her when her own warriors had stepped away. Rian stood, even though his legs felt weak. He turned to her and said in a calm voice, "We need to move. It is not safe here." Another explosion sounded in the distance. More smoke rose. The palace bells rang in warning. The enemy was getting closer. Rian looked around for a safe path. He saw a broken wall on the right side that could give them some cover. He guided her behind it. She followed silently. She could not stop staring at him. This young soldier had risked himself with no hesitation. He did not know her. He had no reason to protect her, except that she was in danger. Rian checked the courtyard again. More guards were fleeing. Some tried to regroup, but fear had broken their formation. No one seemed to know who the enemy was. The blasts looked like they were fired from a distance, maybe from the rooftops. Rian realized that if the attackers managed to get inside the palace, the Empress would have no protection except him. He looked injured, though he tried to hide it. His arm shook a little, and he breathed harder than usual. But when the Empress asked if he was hurt, he shook his head lightly. "I am fine. We only need to find a safe place." The Empress placed her hand on his shoulder. "You were brave. You did not run," Rian answered simply. Someone had to stand firm. Lyra felt something shift in her heart. She had seen courage many times in her life, but this moment was different. She knew her own guards were trained to fight without fear, yet fear had taken them today. But the human in front of her, with no great title or perfect armor, had protected her with pure instinct. Rian tried to think clearly. He remembered studying a map of the palace earlier that morning. There were old tunnels under the courtyard, built many years ago for emergencies. If he could reach the entrance, he could lead the Empress underground, away from the attackers. He quickly looked around for the door. It was hidden behind a tall sculpture in the corner of the courtyard. "Come with me," he said softly. "We have a way out." They moved carefully. Rian walked in front, holding his shield up in case another blast came. Pieces of stone lay everywhere. Smoke burned their eyes. Every step felt dangerous. The Empress stayed close behind him, trusting him completely now. As they walked, Rian could hear whispers around them. Some alien servants who were hiding behind fallen pillars whispered to each other. They had seen what happened in the courtyard. The human saved her. One voice said he did not run like the others, another answered. He took the blast himself. These whispers reached the Empress's ears. She felt warmth in her chest. She had always believed humans were clever and strong, but she never expected such loyalty from someone she had never met. They reached the tall sculpture, shaped like a winged creature from Zyran history. Behind it, half hidden by vines, was a metal door. Rian pushed it with his good arm. It opened with a heavy sound. A narrow staircase led downward into darkness. Rian stepped aside to let the Empress enter first. She looked at him with gratitude. "You risked yourself. Why?" "I do not know how to run when someone near me is in danger," he said. "That is how I was trained, and that is how I choose to be." His voice was soft but firm. The Empress felt that he spoke not to impress her, but because he believed it deeply. They went down the stairs. It was dark, but small lights on the walls activated when they passed. The air was cool. The sounds of explosions were distant now. Rian walked a few steps ahead, checking every corner before letting her move forward. He could feel pain in his arm where a piece of energy had burned through his armor, but he ignored it. Right now, the Empress's safety mattered more than anything else. The tunnel opened into a long corridor. This part of the palace was almost forgotten. It was built long ago during a time of war. Only a few knew about it. The Empress looked around quietly. She could see the worry on Rian's face. He tried to hide it well, but she had good eyes and good instinct. "You were injured?" she said softly. "I will be fine," he replied quickly. "We cannot stop yet." But she stepped closer and placed her hand lightly on his arm. "Thank you," she said. "You protected me when many others did not. I will not forget this." Rian looked down for a moment. He felt shy. He was not used to being praised by a ruler, but he nodded, keeping his focus. They continued walking. The corridor led them deeper under the palace. They passed old storage rooms and empty halls. Dust covered the ground. The lights flickered as if they'd been waiting years for someone to walk here again above them. The sounds of fighting or destruction went on. Rian could only guess what was happening. Was the palace under full attack? Were the guards trying to regain control? He hoped that help would come soon, but he prepared himself for the possibility that he might be the only shield. The Empress had for a long time. The tunnel suddenly shook. Dust dropped from the ceiling. Rian grabbed the Empress's arm to steady her. She touched his hand lightly, not in fear, but in trust. Rian looked ahead. The tunnel turned sharply to the right. Beyond that turn, there was a large steel door that led to the lower gardens, a hidden area where they could wait safely or escape if needed. He took a deep breath. "We are close. Stay behind me." The Empress nodded. Her voice was steady. She had regained her strength now. Her fear had melted away, replaced by something stronger. She looked at Rian and felt certain that with him beside her, She could face anything. They reached the steel door. Rian pushed it open carefully. Fresh air entered the tunnel. The lower gardens lay ahead, hidden behind tall walls and thick trees. It was a quiet place, safe and peaceful. He guided her outside. For a moment they stood there, breathing the clean air. The sky above was filled with smoke, but here there was calm. Birds scattered through the branches. Small lights glowed among the trees. Rian scanned the area once more. No enemy was in sight. The Empress stepped beside him. She looked up at him, and her expression held respect he never imagined he would earn. "You stood for me when the world fell apart," she said. "I will never forget that." Rian looked forward, staying watchful. He did not know how this day would end. He only knew one thing: as long as he could stand. Rian stood at the edge of the lower garden and listened carefully. The air was calm, but he knew danger still hung over them like a silent shadow. The Empress stood behind him, watching him with a calm but worried expression. Her silver eyes were bright even in the dim light that passed through the tall trees. Rian held his shield close and took slow breaths to keep his mind clear. He had survived the blasts earlier, but the pain in his arm reminded him that he was already injured. Still, he refused to slow down. The Empress stepped closer. Her voice was soft. "Rian, are you sure you can continue?" "You have taken too much already." Rian gave a small nod. "I am fine. We must keep moving. They will search for you." Lyra looked around the garden. The glowing plants moved gently in the wind. It was a peaceful place built for quiet walks and royal rest, but today it felt like a hiding spot in a dangerous world. She knew Rian was right. Whoever attacked the palace wanted her captured or gone. She could not stay here long. Rian led her down a narrow path that ran between tall stone walls. He kept his body between her and any direction where danger might come. His senses were sharp. Every rustle of leaves made him turn his head. Every distant sound made him pause. Even though he was only a young soldier, the Empress felt safe walking behind him. His determination felt strong enough to face anything. They moved deeper into the garden until they reached a small bridge that crossed a shallow stream. Rian stopped suddenly. He raised his hand slightly to signal silence. Lyra stayed still. She knew something was wrong the moment his body became tense. Rian listened. There was a soft sound coming from the other side of the bridge. It was the sound of someone stepping on a fallen leaf, slow and intentional. Whoever it was tried to move quietly. Rian stepped forward slowly and whispered, "Stay behind me." The Empress nodded. Her staff glowed faintly as she prepared herself. She had great power, but she had never used it in a real fight. Still, after seeing Rian stand for her, she felt strength wake inside her that she did not know she had. A figure stepped out from behind a large tree. It was an alien soldier, but not one from her royal guards. He wore dark armor with no symbol. His weapon was pointed at Rian. "Do not move," the enemy soldier said. Rian did not drop his shield. He slowly moved his body to protect the Empress without. Looking away from the enemy, the soldier's eyes flicked toward the Empress. "We only want her." "Step aside." Rian shook his head. "No." The soldier raised his weapon higher. "You are only human. You cannot protect her against all of us," Rian answered in a steady voice. "I can try." The enemy laughed. "Then you will fall first." Before the soldier could fire, Rian moved. He rushed forward with surprising speed despite his injuries. The enemy shot once, but the blast hit Rian's shield and bounced away. Rian slammed into the soldier, knocking him to the ground. The weapon fell from his hand. The Empress watched with wide eyes. She had never seen a human fight like that. Rian fought with strength, but also with heart. Every movement showed that he cared more about protecting than hurting. He pinned the enemy down and secured the weapon. But before he could stand fully, a sharp sound echoed from the forest. More footsteps. Rian looked up and saw several dark-armored soldiers emerging from the trees. They were moving fast, surrounding the area. Rian grabbed the Empress's hand. "We run," he said. She followed without hesitation. Rian pulled her across the bridge and down a path covered in thick roots. The attackers fired behind them, but the garden walls helped block the blasts. Rian kept his shield up while guiding her ahead. Every few steps he looked back to check how close the enemies were. Lyra could hear Rian breathing harder. She knew he was tired. Yet he continued. He did not slow. She felt a deep ache in her chest watching his effort. No one had ever protected her with such will. They reached an open clearing where tall stone pillars stood in a circular shape. The path split into two directions. Rian stopped, unsure which way would be safer. The enemy footsteps grew louder behind them. Lyra stepped forward and touched one of the pillars. A faint symbol glowed. She knew this place well. It was part of an old escape system built long ago to hide the royal family during times of danger. This way, she said, pointing to the right path. It leads to the old gate. If we reach it, we can exit the palace grounds. Maria nodded and followed her lead. The gate was far, but moving was their only choice. They went down the long path where glowing vines wrapped around the walls. Rian felt the air shift. It was getting colder. That meant they were getting close to the old outer wall of the palace. Suddenly a figure jumped out from the shadows ahead. Rian raised his shield, ready to fight, but the figure did not attack. Instead, it collapsed to the ground. It was one of the Empress's guards, badly injured. His armor was damaged and his breathing weak. Lyra knelt beside him. What happened? The guard lifted his head slightly. Your Majesty, it was an inside attack. A hidden faction. They took control of the towers. They want the throne. They think you are too kind to rule. Lyra felt a sharp pain in her heart. Her own people. Her own guards. Some had betrayed her. She tried to help the injured guard stand, but he was too weak. Rian placed a gentle hand on the Empress's shoulder. We must keep moving. If they want the throne, they will not stop. We cannot stay here. The guard held Lyra's hand one last time. Your Majesty, trust no one except those who stand with you. His eyes moved to Rian. This human is loyal. Follow him. With his last breath, he fell still. Lyra stood in silence for a moment. Rian lowered his head in respect. There was no time to mourn. The enemy was close. They continued down the winding path until they reached the old gate. It was a tall metal door covered in vines. If they could open it, they would have a chance to escape into the outer lands where loyal forces might still be waiting. Rian stepped forward and pushed the door, but it did not open. It was stuck from years without use. He tried again, using all his strength. His injured arm hurt sharply, but he did not stop. Lyra pressed her hands against the door as well. Together, they pushed. The door moved a little, then a little more. Finally, with a loud sound, it opened just enough for them to slip through. But before they could step out, a voice echoed from behind them. You cannot escape. They turned. A group of enemy soldiers blocked the path. The leader stepped forward. He wore darker armor than the others and carried a long staff. You will come with us, the leader said to the Empress. Your time is over. Lyra held her staff tightly. Rian stepped in front of her once again. His body was tired, but his spirit stood firm. The leader raised his staff and fired a bright beam toward them. Rian lifted his shield and blocked the attack. The force pushed him back a few steps. His legs shook. He could hardly keep his balance. The leader's soldiers rushed forward. Rian met them head-on. He fought with everything he had left. He blocked 2 strikes, pushed one soldier aside, and ducked under another attack. But there were too many. One hit him from the side. Another attacked from behind. Rian stumbled, dropping to one knee. The Empress saw him fall. Something inside her broke. She stepped forward and raised her staff. It glowed brightly, brighter than before. She struck the ground with it. A wave of light spread out, forcing the enemy back. Her power flowed with strength she had never used before. Rian looked up at her. She stood tall, defending both of them. For the first time since the attack began, she felt not fear but anger for what the enemy had done, and courage for what she must protect. Rian got back on his feet. He grabbed his shield again and stood beside her. They fought together. She used her staff to blind and push back the attackers. Rian used his strength and shield to protect her from every side. Their movements matched naturally as if they had fought together for years. The leader stepped forward again. His eyes burned with frustration. He aimed his staff at Lyra, ready to strike her directly. But before he could release the beam, Rian ran toward him and slammed his shield into him with full force. The leader fell back, dropping his staff. The remaining enemy soldiers hesitated. Without their leader's command, their courage faded. They backed away slowly. Moments later, they turned and ran into the forest. Silence returned to the garden. Lyra breathed heavily. Her hands trembled slightly from the power she had used. Rian stood beside her, leaning on his shield to catch his breath. They were both exhausted, but they had survived. A sound came from above. Several palace ships flew toward the garden. The human and alien allied forces had finally gained control of the palace again. Soldiers landed near the Empress, running toward her. They knelt with deep respect. One alien commander spoke with shame. "Your Majesty, we arrived too late. We failed to protect you." Lyra looked at them with calm strength. "You are forgiven. But remember this moment. Courage is not found in rank or armor. It is found in the heart." She stepped aside and called Rian forward. The soldiers stared at him with surprise. His armor was cracked. His arm was injured. His face showed exhaustion. Yet he stood straight. "This human," Lyra said in a clear voice, "did not run. When the world around us fell into fear, he stood firm and saved my life. From this day, he stands as my protector." Rian looked shocked. He did not expect such honor. "Your Majesty, I only did what I believed was right. And that," she said gently, "is why you are worthy." The soldiers bowed to him. Some whispered about his bravery.